going. Hey everybody. Appreciate you all coming here. Now, on this call, I really wanted to kind of bring on Brett because a lot of people have been asking about cryptocurrencies. Everybody's been seeing what's going on, and it's just kind of going crazy. And I've had some questions about it. So I wanted to have Brett come on and kind of help us get some clarity around, what's happening right now, why it's happening, what's going to be happening down the road into the future. Now, obviously, this is not financial advice. This is not, a recommendation to invest in crypto, because all investments, especially crypto, have risk involved. So you've got to be very aware of that. I've known Brett for many, many, many years now through, my ventures, elevation group, that kind of stuff, and he's been very, I guess, kind with his sharing of his value and stuff and his knowledge. So I really appreciate you, Brett, you coming on and sharing here today. So with that all being said, if you want to give everybody here kind of a quick background of, who you are, what you've done, so that they have some context here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that. And yeah, we go way back, and I believe back when I was running the Options University. I finally found what I'm good at and I love to do, and so it took me half my life, but it's definitely been an experience and immersion, and have went full time in 2021 when I got brought into a company called Moonstream. And prior to that, I was doing other things and speaking internationally, and then COVID sort of grounded us. So serendipity stepped in. Since then, been doing a lot in the markets, both with technology and learning the nuances of all of the Bitcoin, the crypto, everything like that. I did buy my first Bitcoin at $20 back in 2013. And the long story short is, on the condition that I used it to pay for drinks and appetizers with the founder of BitPay back in a bar where he knew a restaurant that he knew the owner. So that was my $100,000 happy hour recently. And when started trading in 2018, wasn't successful. Was using a lot of the standard indicators, that everyone uses, like RSIs and the MACDs, and they're not really equipped for crypto. And so we've been developing our own, and but really learning the nuances of what's driving everything, and developed a pretty good spidey sense. So, I'm a pretty humble guy, but my students have started calling me Cryptodamus. I think it's finally the tens of thousands of hours of staring at charts, and a few accidental discoveries, and just kind of immersing in it. But yeah, we did kind of forecast this pullback a couple weeks ago, so it's interesting to see it playing out. And now I'm co-founder of Moonstream Crypto, and happy to share what I see and what I know with you guys.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I have my own little story about crypto. I don't know where it's at right now, but somewhere I have a hardware wallet that is locked. I don't even want to know how much is on it. It's probably not going to be it wouldn't make me feel very good, but my kids got a hold of it and erased the password by plugging it in too many times. And then they had the pass key. It's a piece of paper. They actually uh, destroyed it. And so I lost amount of crypto that I don't want to know what it is worth right now, but it's probably in close to six figures.
At least you're a good dad and you bought some. I found an old email where I emailed my late father in 2012 about Bitcoin, and he wrote back. I said, "Sounds interesting, son. Looks too risky." So, but it was. I mean, anyone who kept it this long, my hat's off to them, because at any point it goes, the volatility would have made most people sell. But anyway, I'll give you $20 for that. For that hard drive. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And it's funny, it was 6 years ago that they did it. It's almost 6 years.
Hmm.
So you understand that what's happened in the last 6 years with crypto. But I had a video of me actually showing it on how you program the whole thing. And so I thought I had the passwords and everything, but alas, yeah, it's sitting over here in a box somewhere gathering dust. So yeah, maybe a separate conversation on that thing.
The journeys of life.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, cool. So everybody here, so on this call, so by the way, feel free to ask questions. You can unmute, you can use the chat box, just ask questions about this. Now, Brett, so one of the questions I have on this is what has been driving, like, in this current bull run we've been in with crypto? I mean, it's just going up and up and up. And then, I mean, what was it at the beginning of the year? What was it at? You remember?
Well, the beginning of the year was right around 44K, and I'll double check that, but there was a very prominent short. Yeah, 44K January, and there was a very prominent short who was saying that we would go back to 44K because over history, Bitcoin has come back and retested the price as the opening month as of January 1. So clearly that's not happening now, but he lost after millions of dollars and lost. He threw in the towel, and anyway, but 44K, so it's it's more than double 2.5x this year.
And what's been driving this rise in the price? Like what do you feel is kind of causing it to go up?
Yeah, and at any point, I've got charts pulled up. We can look at that if you want, but we can cover the
Sure.
bases. Pretty much ETF mania. I did a study. I've been working on a study for over a year now that's public on TradingView that I started as the 7 factors that would drive Bitcoin to 150 to 200K. And now it's 11 factors, but along the way, a lot of these have been checking off. And so one of the drivers is, of course, the Bitcoin ETF, and that's been the most successful ETF in history. Some of the other ones include like corporate adoption and country adoption. We could pull it up and go through it. I think that might be useful. But there was, the bank term funding program was basically injecting liquidity into the markets to prop up our banks because we had a wave of bank failures in 2022. And then when that ended, I proposed that they would find a new way of injecting liquidity. These markets are driven by liquidity, bottom line. It's not the halving, it's not the price of Bitcoin, it is liquidity in being injected globally. And I have a study I have pulled up where we can see that, where when liquidity turns up, price goes up, we break to new all-time high. And so, but there are a number of factors, and each one of them I liken to a small smoldering campfire that, if any or all of them ignite, it'll turn into a good old-fashioned California forest fire, near impossible to put out. So slowly these are happening, and it is happening. It's just taking a little longer than we all hoped.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of gives that kind of some idea what's going on now. For some people on this call, they might not be really, into crypto or understand a lot about crypto. So for those kind of individuals, what would you kind of say is like the kind of the thing behind crypto? Like it exists, we know that, just like fiat currency exists, but why? Why does it even exist? Why are we even seeing this stuff right now?
I think you answered the question because of fiat currency, which is devaluing at 15% per year. And Michael Saylor's really been a prescient thinker and all of this, and been the most vocal about why it's important as a store of value, and was one of the first, if not the first, he was the first known person really to put all of the company balance sheet assets on in Bitcoin for that reason, because he had 500 million in cash, and just he's like he couldn't get ahead, and realized that the value just keeping cash was bad. It was pointless. It was devaluing, on average 15% a year due to inflation. So a true scarce asset like Bitcoin that will only go up because of the scarcity and a number of other things, like the miners and having. We can talk a little bit about that, but that's really where the narrative started. A new form of money that we can't continue to print money, and as every civilization has done and ultimately failed, including the Romans. And they just started mixing the gold coins with copper and printing more and more and more, and it was unsustainable. So that's been the driving force. What's keeping it here is the network of node people that run nodes and validators, and essentially the sheer number of people around the world that are keeping it alive. So some people will say, well, what if they turn off the internet? It can't be stopped. I mean, especially now with Starlink, the network, and Michael Saylor talks about this. The amount of exahash in the Bitcoin network is bigger than Microsoft and Amazon combined. I mean, it's massive, and therein lies the value. Sailor's strategy is a little different than what he's doing, but and I'm hoping I've got mutual friends of his. There's a chance I'll be invited down to be with him and a small group of people at his place in Miami, Villa Vecchia for New Year's. So I'm working on that. We'll see.
That'd be awesome. So now there's some people out there when you talk about crypto, they say, well, it's tied to the dollar. So it's tied to fiat currency, it's tied to all those things. So we talk about how fiat currency is only backed by the promise of the government. It's really all it is, or there's nothing backing it. Um, and so how is crypto different, and is it tied to fiat? Because it seems like when the markets go up and down, they kind of almost mirror each other to a degree.
Yeah, it's a good question. For now, it is because that's what we know as our store of value. So people selling Bitcoin and crypto into dollars or into Tether. A really interesting study I'll share with you guys in a minute that kind of forecasted this pullback. But people are starting in Bitcoin, not the masses. There's a study about how much Bitcoin you needed to buy a house. Basically, and 10 years ago, it was a lot of them, and now it's not so many of them. So I think in the next 4, 5, 10 years, people will be pricing things in Bitcoin and dollars, but the handwriting's on the wall, and of course, since it may be a new group here, you don't need to own or transact an entire Bitcoin. The kind of like pennies to the dollar, they're called Satoshis. And so it's a much smaller version of that. But, it's definitely still a nascent industry and growing and still early. But it's here to stay. And as far as the value, it's also priced in euros and other denominations. So if you're in England, you can trade the Bitcoin euro, et cetera. But predominantly it's versus USD because that's, as of now, the world reserve currency. Although at some point in the future, yeah, we might see it as Bitcoin. We'll see.
Might change. Now, another kind of interesting conversation I get into with somebody is that they say, well, if you have $10 in your hand or in your bank account, it doesn't really fluctuate in value very much. It kind of goes up. Basically inflation, it goes down, not up, but it doesn't really change very fast or very quick. The markets, like stocks, change. They're very quick and very volatile. Bitcoin actually is tied back to the US dollar, but the volatility is like the markets. So is there ever a point or a strategy where eventually cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin is going to be more of a stable currency, not so volatile?
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that as and maybe I'll just if I can share my screen,
Yeah.
I'll kind of drive a little bit and show a few things that might be helpful. And I think that will work. And so we'll come back to this here. This is just basically a chart, but a very simpler version of it is this regression curve on Bitcoin. And so this is the price chart. So in each market top, it's gotten up into these other bands, but you can see that it's kind of stabilizing a bit. It's becoming less volatile, which most assets will do over time. And so, as the institutions and ETFs are involved, it is now a Wall Street product, like it or not. And with the volume of the ETF money coming in and derivatives, the volatility will diminish over time. There'll always be volatility, which makes it a fun asset to invest in.
Mhm.
But even just looking at this over time and zooming out, the going back, this goes back to 2018. I'll go a little bit farther back. And the wild price swings of the early days. Let me just turn off
Mhm.
some of these
Yeah.
arrows here. I'll explain what that is later. Has really evened out. We can see that the first kind of push up higher on the from the beginning was like 480,000%. Obviously, that was from the beginning, so it's going to be higher. But from the first bear market crash to the next high was 62,000%. So it is a diminishing degree of volatility, although still enough to scare most people away, but still enough to provide a lot of opportunity. And so, I think it's an ideal time to be kind of looking at it as an asset class.
Okay. And because right now, I mean, the way that people look at the investments or the stock market is you put like a certain percentage of whatever you want into the markets if you're playing the markets, but you keep most of your capital for transactional things outside of it in just in crypto or not in US dollars. Is that kind of the same approach with cryptocurrencies? Is you put it in there as more of an investment, not really as a transactional thing? Because right now, if we wanted to make transactions, we've got to have money set aside for that. That's not going to be destroyed if the market collapses. Is that kind of the same kind of approach for like the Bitcoin or crypto?
Yeah, I mean it's still in a dubious speculation phase, and to quote Ben Cowan, but it's not used in transactions very much yet. It is starting to, and with the Lightning Network on Bitcoin, the transaction speeds is increasing quite a bit, and that's one of the big narratives in crypto right now. And the projects in these key sectors like AI and real world assets, one that people aren't really talking about, but I like is is one of the strongest is the transactions per second. And as you might imagine, companies that have a monetization model like a MasterCard and Visa and can take a little bit of each transaction, like Ethereum or Solana or Sui or some of these newer ones, they are getting a lion's share of the investment dollars. But it is purely on the future value of these things. When the bear market is back, these are all going to go down 85, 90% again. Hopefully not that much. But as the industry grows and there's more utility and use for these projects, there's some really cool projects out there that you probably haven't heard of that are going to be the future Netflix and Amazon's. One is competing with AWS, which is Amazon's most profitable segment, just a decentralized version of that. But it's early, and the game we're playing right now are these kind of swing trading swings. There's the camp of hodlers that'll just buy and hold forever. I don't agree with that. I think we should swing trade at least the macro bottoms and tops, which we've been able to nail and repeatedly get right. But it's still a market, and I think what we missed was I had a class Wednesday, and I'll just kind of end with this here is that we had already factored in a quarter point rate cut that was 99% on the FOMC Fed rate tool. So I thought it'd be a slow day. What I hadn't thought of is Powell's comments could nuke the market, which they did. And basically, I think he did it intentionally. He didn't want to give the new administration all the credit for saving this economy because, he probably has one foot out the door. So, he nuked the market, sort of signaling a risk-off environment coming. But, that doesn't mean that's going to be the case. It's the market loves to be volatile. The news, and one of my old sayings that I've always said is, show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. And so we were overbought anyway, just needed a catalyst to dump, and it hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, because I mean, I know like the current bear, the run in the market, the traditional stock markets, I think it's like the longest one or the most volatile one in history or whatever it is. I can't remember what's going on right now, but that's been pretty crazy. Have you seen that? Is that the corresponding result in crypto too that's gone down?
No, I mean, I heard the S&P has had the worst 10-day stretch since
That's what it was.
1974.
Yeah.
Um, they're somewhat correlative. I don't really follow the major markets. I look at the VIX and the Dixie. But for the dollar index was inversely related to Bitcoin until very recently, and now they've decoupled and they're both going higher. So I'm not sure how to read into that. I do think we have a recessionary environment and maybe a deflationary bust coming in Q2, Q3. What happens between now and then, unsure. Probably get a nice pump, and then I think not to jump ahead, I think we could see a secondary bull run coming out of Q3 into Q4 next year. But this whole 4-year cycle that everyone's waiting for and expecting, consensus is dangerous, and I don't think that's going to play out.
Okay. Very good. Now keep in mind, everybody, if you guys have questions on this kind of stuff, please use that chat box or unmute yourselves, that kind of stuff, because obviously Brett's got a lot of knowledge here. I've been doing this for quite some time. So, whoops, there we go. So another kind of question I have. So, right now, your way of benefiting from crypto or building wealth off of crypto is just trading the markets in crypto, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's mostly what we do. And, we both have I'm not here to talk about our services and things we have. There's kind of two paths. There's a long-term hodler, and it starts out as a, merry homemaker heard from Bob down the street about this thing called Bitcoin
Mhm.
and bought some, and they're going to be a long-term holder, and that's great. We have a service where we sort of talk about finding the future Netflix and Amazons for that longer term hold. And so that's one demographic. The other side are the more active investors who want a little more action, where we are swing trading these inflection points, and with some technology that we have. And one of my partners is a quant engineer and former hedge trader, and whatever everyone says that. But we've made a few discoveries that have really helped with that. And I have an active trader group. We do classes every Wednesday where we're doing trades and kind of daily chat and just dissecting the market and looking at things like this, which if you're not sure what you're looking at, it's not an EKG. It's sort of, but yeah, so that's a lot of what we do. And just to show you one thing,
Yeah.
many people think you can't time the market, and that's not true. I mean, it's not exactly timable, but it's also not like the Wizard of Oz. Like the Wizard of Oz, when you peek behind the curtain and realize that it's not magic, that you can really gain an edge. So one of the accidental discoveries that we made was this arrow here. The actual oscillator looked like this. Does look like EKG, so we coded it with an arrow. But essentially, we were going to deprecate it, and then I noticed a pattern when price would go up to a certain point and then below 80 in a certain number of time periods. And also on the upside, it had a high correlation of continuing in that direction. Confluence is always important. So just looking at this red arrow, this red chevron, this red circle, and this red RSI, there are four different algorithms. That alignment, when those align, that is our bear market get out the combination, and there's also a bearish engulfing candle there. So that was the market top last cycle. These other ones kind of confirmed it, and there's some noise in the middle, but on the monthly time frame, it helped us get in right here and at the bottom of the market. So not to get too far into the weeds here, but like this arrow there told us, and I was saying buy the market back in Jan 23, right down at 16.5. People thought I was crazy, but I had also forecast 16.5 back in May when people thought it was crazy. So it's a little bit of luck. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, but it's both the years of experience and the technology. And so that's kind of what we're watching for, and what I'm watching for now, in case anyone's wondering, is this a market top? It's not the market top, but we're seeing that similar pattern. And if I see a red arrow, which hasn't appeared yet on this weekly, and we start going red on these two, then I'll call a near-term market top. But we're not. I mean, there's this is kind of neat too. I don't know if you guys, is the audience, are you guys investors at all, or do you
Some
trade?
are, yeah. Yeah, we got some investors here. A lot of the people I think here on when it comes to crypto are probably not in the crypto market. Some of them might be, but I don't think a lot of them currently are in it right now.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, a simple Fibonacci on this from the last cycle high to the low, we just hit the 1.618 numbers, so I'm not surprised we're rejecting. And incidentally, my targets for the high of the market is 150 and 200K, kind of similarly based on a Fibonacci study that we can get into. But there's a lot of cool stuff I can share with you. This study on US dollar tether. 2 weeks ago, I said this thing it could bounce here, and that would indicate a market top. And it's starting to play out that way. So this is a chart of Tether, which is a stable coin for dollar. Imagine a seesaw. And if Bitcoin's up, then the other side is down. And that means people have either put their cash into Bitcoin or put in US Tether or USDC, which are stable coins. As Bitcoin goes down, though, the money usually flows into stable coins and not so much dollars. People want to keep it in crypto. So this
Can
is inversely related.
can you
What's
explain what
interesting?
stablecoin mean? What that means? Everybody here?
Yeah, so it's a surrogate for a dollar, and it's essentially a crypto dollar that is pegged to always be at a dollar. Of course, there was a famous one that imploded in 2022, Terra Luna, but that was an algorithmic version, and there were many inherent flaws with that. So the most prominent one is called Tether. And every bull cycle, there's all this fear about, well, what if Tether implodes? And it's been debunked a dozen times because Tether as a company is the largest owner of U.S. Treasuries. So the government's not going to like take that down. But
Oh,
essentially, if you were going to sell Bitcoin, you could sell it into dollars or into Tether. And so maybe I'm getting a little bit too much in the weeds here,
well,
but
so let me ask you a question. So Tether, I mean, so if you like purchase Tether, it doesn't change in value. That's kind of the question that I see someone asking me privately.
sure. Yeah. And so that's a good question, though. I think it's worth noting. Tether's always going to be around a dollar. What this chart is USDT dominance. And so, for example, in the entire amount of money in crypto, if we see Bitcoin dominance going higher, that means the majority of that money is going into Bitcoin,
Okay.
which we saw recently, and then a dip, and now we're seeing it push higher again.
So that's
Uh,
people moving their cryptocurrencies into Bitcoin.
yeah, I mean, their dollars essentially, their money. And
Yeah.
so, and then what typically happens, and this might be interesting to everyone, is when in each market cycle,
Hmm.
the Bitcoin dominance, so the majority of the money goes into Bitcoin first, and it pushes up higher, like the last cycle here. I'll just zoom in, and then the money starts coming out of Bitcoin and into the altcoins and things like that. So this shows the money flowing out of Bitcoin, even though prices continued higher. On a percentage basis, the dominance was dropping. And so anyway, I think not to confuse anybody, but these are measures of where's the money going. The majority of money is going. And so if either on the seesaw example, it's either going into Bitcoin or going into altcoins or Tether. But
Okay.
um, maybe that's maybe a simpler example that would help. And so the total market cap is all the dollars in crypto. And we just turn off all these drawings here for a second. And so the market top last cycle was right here when the total market cap hit $3 trillion to the nose, really to the dollar. I mean, if we go over
So
to the right side,
that's interesting. So $3 trillion has been moved out of fiat currencies into Bitcoin overall, the total.
overall, yep. And well, I'm sorry, not Bitcoin. This is everything. Bitcoin,
Right.
altcoins,
Into
everything.
cryptocurrencies.
And we can zero in a bit on that. But the point here is the market cycle top last cycle had nothing to do with the price of Bitcoin. It was this programmatic selling kicked in across the board. It just happened to be when Bitcoin was 69,000, et cetera, whatever. So this is what we track more than the price of Bitcoin directly. But and I'll show one more example. This is the total market cap of everything excluding Bitcoin. So it's about half, 1.7 trillion. But one of the reasons I was forecasting we'd pull back here the last 2 weeks is because we were just, we had this huge run up, but we rejected at the high from the last cycle. Simple support and resistance. Most
Hmm.
people aren't watching this. And then, so this would be everything but Bitcoin, including Ethereum. The total three, though, same thing. We just hit resistance here from the last cycle high, and this is everything including excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the two largest.
Right.
So basically, I think we pull down a little bit farther, and then we kind of break out, and we head higher on these. But a lot of my the North Star that I'm watching is sort of the total market cap. It's kind of like the Dow, the total amount of money in the overall market.
Right. Right. Okay. So, okay, so now we've kind of got some kind of background information here on what's going on. Now, what do you like for the people here? Like, well, let's respond to John's question real quick. So he says, "What crypto Bitcoin books do you recommend reading?"
Yeah, that's a great question. It's called the Bitcoin. It's on my shelf. Uh, it's I haven't read the book in a while. It's Bitcoin Standard, the Bitcoin Standard. But if you don't have a lot of time, here's what I would do. Go to hope.org, or sorry, hope.com. That's Michael Saylor's site, and watch the keynote from the Nashville Bitcoin conference, and it's on here. Maybe I'll drop the link. Just watch that because he's a genius. He's definitely on the spectrum. And here, this keynote here, and basically lays the groundwork of why every company, country, and corporation, should put all their money into Bitcoin, and you can't argue with it. It's hard to argue with this. So let me see. This is on Twitter. Let me see if I can get a direct link. So Bitcoin Standard as a book, but watching this video will be life-changing, and I don't say that lightly. It's we're not late, and but we're still early though. There's the link for that. Just watch that. It's 40 minutes. Trust me.
I want to copy that link too. Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that, by the time a book gets written, gets put out on Bitcoin, it's changed. It's changing, pretty quick and stuff. So that's one thing I've noticed, because I've read some articles and stuff, and they're like 2 years old and they don't make any sense because it's changed so much in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's an evolving market or evolving industry right now. And as you said, it's still fairly young in the grand scheme of things. Um,
Yeah. Well, I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and they like do a version of crypto, but uh,
yeah.
anyway, but to answer the question, Bitcoin Standard is more of the why that it should and likely will, I don't want to say take over the world, but be here to stay. And, it certainly spawned a number of other blockchains that have different use case, but very valuable as well. Solana is really aiming at transaction speed, and they're doing studies with Visa. They have a layer two called Fire Dancer. Don't worry about that, but basically that'll allow them to do 500,000 to a million transactions per second, which is kind of really is game changing. So there's a number of those in that space that will be handling crypto transactions. And if you're new to this, it's very easy to send Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and just send it over the blockchain, and within minutes it arrives. One reason why you might want to do that, and I think this might resonate with your audience, recently I tried to send money from my bank via Zelle to my personal assistant, and that I just rehired, and there's just something was glitching. I could tried, had to call a dozen times, told her the money was on the way, money wasn't coming. You know, you shouldn't let the banks control your money, even though in the end we got it resolved. I'm like, this is exactly why we need crypto. Control your money, sovereignty of your own wealth, keep it on a cold storage wallet, and nobody can touch it.
Yep. I had the
So,
same thing happen to Zelle here earlier this month in December too. It kept trying to send it and it sent some and then would deny the rest. And yeah, it was pretty frustrating. Yeah, for sure. And actually, by the way, there's another thing that's going on with infinite banking. So obviously I focus on infinite banking, and there's this uh, company that my group works with that is now taking your insurance policies onto the blockchain as a way to, one, protect them, one, make sure that they're not lost, because if somebody passes away and doesn't tell anybody they have a policy, they don't know, so they're safeguarded. And then you can start to actually take the loans with almost 0% rates through this platform. It is going to be
mm,
game changing for the infinite banking world. And so we're actually watching this very closely, how it's going to work. I have a video that I'm going to be watching here tonight on that. So it's pretty cool. So there's lots of cool use cases out there on this kind of stuff. Um, Now, that being said, I mean, someone else had a
keep me
question here.
posted on that.
What's that?
Keep me posted on that. Our group might want to learn about that, and uh, yeah, me too. So
Yeah, I think it's Infineon. I can't remember the company's name, but Chris, the guy that I work with, he's actually now part owner of that company too. So that's how much we believe in it. Um, so kind of talk about more about kind of the opportunity here a little bit. So John had a question. He said, "What crypto sectors should we be looking to invest in this bull run?"
cool. Yeah, I'll happy to answer that. So I'm gonna go into a list here. This is part of we have an inner circle where we focus on that. So long story short, AI is going to be big, and we caught some of these in October of 2023, right when there was this big inflection point back here when AI tokens were just on a tear. So right back in this region, this went up. Wait, that's the wrong button. And just to give you an idea, these are 67x. So these are sort of percolating, ready to go. Probably not 67x now, but I'm targeting 3 and 4 and 5 and 10x on some of these. So AI sector, there's a number of these we're watching. AI with Z, Render, Fetch, and a couple other micro caps, and also DeFi, cloud storage, and DePIN. So cloud storage, kind of like that, competing with AWS. DePIN stands for decentralized physical infrastructure. So one of my favorite projects is called Filecoin, and basically they will allow people to upload and store data on the cloud on a decentralized format. Now you might be saying, well, why would anyone use this little known company and not Amazon? Well, because all of these AI projects, which are decentralized, and essentially what that means is there's no corporate owner, there's no CEO like Jeff Bezos, it's sort of community owned. The ethos of that and these massive AI projects, which are very data rich and data heavy, are not, they don't want to store on Azure or AWS, where ostensibly the president could call over or anyone could call over and say, hey, give me all the data. So they're going to be pushing for and creating this whole market for the cloud storage and decentralized physical infrastructure is just where that, just as it says, there's no like one central place. So another one of in that section is Helium token. And essentially Helium, instead of, the cell phone companies putting a big giant tower on the every corner of every shopping center and paying the landowner $250,000 for use of that cell terminal. Helium has basically, there's 400, 500,000 miners around the world. I've got a miner in the corner and it's powering the Internet of Things. So you can earn tokens, which let's say Helium token is currently at $7. It's been as high, as 30, 40, and I think we'll get back there. But they reward you for having that little node, that mini cell phone tower that powers, your self-driving cars going by, your refrigerator that says you're out of milk. But Helium, the company has just launched Helium Mobile. So they're getting the mobile business through ATS, through T-Mobile. Same deal as Ryan Reynolds' company, Mint Mobile, did. Same pricing, same everything, and they sold that for $5 billion. So, there's real use cases in some of these projects that are just in their infancy. Metaverse is another segment. I think it's really early on Metaverse. It's not there yet. They're not able to monetize. There's a couple you might have heard of, like Decentraland and but Mana. But the technology, it's terrible. If you log in there, the graphics are bad. It's going to be a while before Metaverse is ready. So transaction speed is the other one I mentioned. So Solana, Sui, Metis, these are kind of ways of processing transactions, which will power commerce in the future. And so those are kind of my top ones, other than also DeFi, which is very interesting and somebody I met recently, Brian, I'll introduce you to. DeFi is decentralized finance, where you can put money with them and earn yield, but not 4% like with the bank, like 20%, 50%, 100%. And they're rewarding people for providing liquidity on these various crypto projects. But this company, Aave, their earnings have been amazing. So that's up now 7x since May, and they're still in their infancy. So there's a number of these on DeFi like Lido Finance and a company called OGN I like is with the founder of YouTube, the lead engineer of YouTube, amazing team. And so, it's GameFi still is a bit early. This is gaming on the blockchain. There's some interesting projects here, but it's still early. They're floundering because they don't have money, they don't have monetization, and or venture backed. So a lot of what I look for is strong utility, a monetization model, revenue, and or venture backed. That way, they're less likely to go to zero during the next bear market. But you know.
Gotcha. Cool. Darren has a question here. Said about, how do you feel about some of the other coins like Ethereum, XRP, Solana? You already mentioned that, of course, but and some of the altcoins. Are there any particular, in addition to Bitcoin, that you have, the short-term opportunities? But you kind of went through, I think, a lot of them right now. The
Yeah,
things that you're looking at.
happy to answer it. I mean, Ethereum is the number two blockchain. It's just hasn't really been performing, hasn't really participated as much in the bull run. Came up to 4,000 and rejected, which not surprising. One of our signals here, we read off of the exchange where the sell orders are and visualize it. So there was a ton of sell orders up in this block, and it was also a prior high from all the way back here. So no surprise Ethereum sold off there, but there's also some question about, the transaction fees are high, and a lot of Ethereum was benefiting from meme coins and those transactions. Well, Solana came in, and I think Solana is going to be the big winner of this cycle aside from Bitcoin.
Mhm.
Right now, what we're seeing is a pullback on Solana because the whales are selling. There's a big unlock, meaning they're going to unlock a lot of tokens to the original, not founders, but early buyers. And usually people sell at the open market. So this, you can see I have a note here, buy pullbacks on that. But Solana is amazing. I recommended it first, August 2021 in our newsletter, and it went 674%. Bled out like the rest of the market, but it's venture backed, very strong system, infrastructure rather, and so it's just kind of has to break up above this recent resistance. So I think Solana is strong. There is a new competitor of that called Sui that has similar technology. It's only a lot cheaper, and we were recommending it under $2. Now it's at 4, and I think it'll go to 6, maybe higher, but these are some of the ones I'm watching. Stacks I like a lot. It sort of helps Bitcoin be better. This bleed off, definitely not what I was expecting, but it still has, yeah, I still think it goes to $10, and I'll continue to dollar cost average and buy lower, not haphazardly, but when our signals turn green again. So we're just, we're rolling over a bit, probably have another week of downside till this thing bleeds out. And Helium token I mentioned. Sui, Sol, AIOZ, Ondo. The I don't really trade. Some of these I like because they're in price discovery, so which means they're at above the old prior highs.
Right.
And what typically happens is, as the name would imply, price discovery. The market makers don't know where to, set the brakes on this. There's no buyers that bought it up here that just can't wait to sell it at break even. Typically, you break above old or new highs and then retest. So some of these that are in new high territory, I like AIOZ, Ondo, and these other ones, they're going to have a longer path higher. But Filecoin has 40x potential, just back to the highs of the last segment. So doesn't mean it will go back that high, but I use it as a barometer. So from the current price to the old high of the last cycle is 41x. So and it's got great technology. So those are some of those longer terms ones I like. And then I have notes to myself to sell into the sell blocks, take some profits. Just to touch on XRP, he mentioned, we're not a big fan of XRP just because it's not truly decentralized. But to be honest, I'll trade anything if I like the chart. And they certainly had a great pump, with Gensler getting fired and likely the SEC lawsuit going away. But I do have skepticism. We dug into it at one point. There's really two companies. There's Ripple Labs, and then there's the token, and they're not really the same company, and the founders own like half of the token. So at any point, Brad Garlinghouse and the rest of the guys could be like, hey, I'm out. And just, so not saying they will. I would just say be careful with that and that recent pump that pushed it up higher like that.
Right. Um, so hopefully Darren, that answered your question. Darren asked another question about some of the indicators that you use for doing these things. Coinmarketcap.com/sentiment. Do you know that one?
Sure. It's kind of like fear and greed, I guess. Let me just pull it up. Is it sentiment? There's one called sentiment.
This is
uh
SENT, sentiment. Sentiment.
Yeah, let me see if it's similar to this one. This is one we use, but I'll go to the coin market cap and check it out. I mean, those things they're sort of nice to know about, but not correlative really to, it's not tradable information. Like, again, show me the charts, I'll tell you the news. But the question is, how do they gauge this? This is based on people on CoinMarketCap. If you go to the regular page and say, hey, I'm bullish on this, generally that means you already own it and you're trying to like pump it up because you own it, and consistency of commitment. So I don't give this a huge amount of it's kind of like surveys. Sometimes your ideal audience, like in crypto, my ideal demographic is an aging male baby boomer worried about retirement, and they're less likely to care about taking a survey. So it kind of skews, it's a little bit off, but it's a useful tool. I mean, I do like Aerodrome, and Hedera had a nice push. Render has we were trading Render, but it's kind of off. The graph makes me laugh because how this is on number six. The graph, so back in last cycle, GRT, they said the graph is like Google. They're gonna map the blockchain, and every time I traded it, I lost money because it's not like Google. It doesn't have a monetization model. It's not the same people. So even to see the graph as top seven or top 10 makes me smirk a bit. But generally you'd go by total market cap. They are top 10 for a reason because people are buying and voting with their wallet. So, but it's a good way to put things on your radar, and I like ICP, but this to me doesn't. I wouldn't use it as for a trading tool. Like I wouldn't go buy Jasmy Coin or Aerodrome. Let's look at Aerodrome just to see the chart because it's getting a lot of bullish action. But sometimes these chat rooms will do that. They'll come pump these things and say, "Go over here and say you're bullish on this," and because people that don't know better will go in and buy it just based on that, and that's the danger. So here's Arrow. I mean, I was bullish on Arrow a few weeks ago when it had a cup and handle breakout. It's not the only bullish thing about it now is it's retesting that prior resistance, but our radar is all red, which is not a good sign, and our other signals are red, so I'm not bullish on it here. I would be, I would be buying Aerodrome when our signals turn green. It is oversold, so it's not bad, but there are coins I think are better like AIOZ and Ondo. So
How about
anyway.
Matic?
Yeah, Matic is it's kind of been bleeding out. Part of the reason is the technology, the layer twos and the ZK rollups that's lends to transaction speed, but the fact that the layer ones are so good now, there's less use case for these. However, and I'll touch on that in a minute. There was a recent scare. Well, I'll just show you the chart here. So Matic, it's been in a long downward trending pattern. It finally broke out above it, but largely didn't participate very much in this latest bull run. And the issue here is you see these sell blocks here, which stem from all the way back here when people were actually buying it. And if you just imagine that Bob is explaining to his wife, Martha, that he's so sorry that he bought this thing and it went down, 80% in value, or let's say 60% in value. And if it just comes back to where he bought it, he swears he's going to sell it out and get the money back so they can still maintain and buy the new car next year. So it's called overhead supply. And that's why it went right into that range. These buyers have been holding it. They started selling it. So, Matic, it's for whatever reason, it's not the hot narrative anymore. It might get back up, but it's going to take a while to get back over old highs, I think.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, cool. So, for the people like on this call or for people who are watching, kind of average individuals, what's the opportunity here? What's the, like, I mean, how can they get their foot, in the door, get their feet wet, so to speak, with this?
Yeah, I mean, you could watch YouTube videos, although they're not tradable information. We have a good newsletter that's free if you want to check that out. And
Actually,
it's
do you
just,
have a link? Do you have a link to that?
yeah, I think I might have. So our website is Moonstream, like moonstream.io. And there's also some of the other services that we have. But at the bottom down here, this free newsletter is every Monday, kind of some news about, we curate the top stories. And then you can sign up for a free training I do on Tuesdays, kind of showing how our indicators work. And then there's a trader success checklist. We just uploaded a new version that is literally like it. You see a pattern, you click a checkbox, and it gives you a trade score. So if you get a 2 or 3, take the trade. If you get it to 4 or 5, add to the trade and things like that. So that would be a good place to start. And let me just see in terms of things out there. There's some good sites out there, like Cointelegraph's pretty good. I always make my own analysis, but hope.com again, the Michael Saylor site, good place to start. And these other tools. I think the hardest thing is knowing what to ignore. So, but let me just share a few things with you. This is a newsletter called the
Yeah.
Pomp Letter from Anthony Pompliano, and so basically we're right here on these market cycle highs. When we don't really peak out until we're up in this 20 range generally on this fear and greed, and we're just about midway. So we have a bit of a hiccup here, probably going to push up much higher, and so that's the good news. Bad news is I think it happens sooner than people think, and we could come crashing down like Q2 or Q3. But cumulative flows, gold versus Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, this is gold. Bitcoin has shot up over 30 billion in net inflows in Bitcoin ETFs since inception. That's massive. So and these are all very good signals.
And you're mainly just buying and selling, correct?
As opposed to,
Yeah, exactly.
well, I mean, I'm long-term bullish, but I'll buy and sell within a range.
Yeah.
For example, I was able to double my Solana because we were trading using our signals within a range since May. And so, sorry, there's a lot to see here, but these green boxes down below, there were heavy buy orders all the way through here. Oops, look at that. These green boxes, not sure what's happening there. There. So this is an indicator called our order block detector. And I'll just take that off because I had drawn that one on, but it literally shows where the buy orders are from the exchange. So all the way through here, I was buying whenever it got down in this range and selling it up on the top and boom, boom, boom. When the yen carry trade unwinded, I had a feeling it would capitulate lower, so I put buy limit orders in at 125, 120, 115. And so all these got filled in this zone and then bounced in profit. So, now that we're in a trending market, I'm holding more of it, but also selling within these, I like simple things like parallel trend channels. You can see here without it, it's kind of like, I don't really see anything. And then you draw it and it's like, oh, I get it. So buy
Right.
low, sell high.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, some people, someone send me a private one saying, do you short the markets? It's not. This is not the stock market.
So,
Right.
yes and no. I was
Yeah.
in $1 million Bitcoin short in February 2024, 2022, highly leveraged Bitcoin short. And the problem is, I was right. Where was it? So I was right in direction, but these markets are still manipulated. And so it was all the way back here, Feb 22, right about let's see. Oh, wrong coin. Anyway, I was in a big short on Bitcoin, and they had it. They kind of late brought in a short squeeze, and even though I had more money coming over to it, they held that, which would have raised my liquidation level and liquidated the trade in a wick. So, do I short? I'm waiting to get back into shorting for the right market environment. It would have been a great time the last few days, but I've been busy with the business and classes and things. But had I not been, I would. The challenge with U.S. people is it's most of the exchanges that you can short you can't use anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's getting more difficult to do that.
I mean, I had to get a Palau ID, so I'm a citizen of Palau, wherever that is, to get KYC with a trading platform called MEXC. So it's doable, but
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it unless
There
you know
you
what
go.
you're doing.
John, another good question here. He says, to gain exposure to crypto, is it better to buy Bitcoin or companies investing in Bitcoin like TSLA, MSTR, etc.?
Yeah. Well, MicroStrategy has been front running this, and there's a very interesting kind of study that I'm watching here that because Bitcoin generally follows MicroStrategy, and MicroStrategy had this parabolic kind of pump already and kind of a euphoric push, and now it's been selling off. It's lost this trading angle here. So, in that sense, I wouldn't be buying MicroStrategy now. It's probably done. If it bounces out of here, longer term, sure, but I'd rather own the underlying and own Bitcoin.
There you go. Cool. We're getting to the top of the hour. So Brett, any kind of like recommendations or links or things you want to share with people?
I was going to briefly show. So we have this signal here. We're watching for the top. It's called the pi cycle top, and that's been right every time. So people in our community will be alerting everyone when they think the top is in. I don't think we're there yet. I have some time and dollar projections on that. Also, I had a liquidity study. I was gonna kind of share. We kind of ran out of time there, but if you wanted to follow some of my studies on TradingView, you can just Google Brett Fogel TradingView, and I do videos periodically like that USDT trade, and sometimes editors pick on some of these, sometimes some trade alerts. But if you really, if this is your jam and you really want to dive into it, I would say our indicators are amazing and really do work and give us an edge. So that's over at cryptomastery.org. All of these are linked to from our website. And then my M3 active trader class is daily chat, doing coin picks in the chat every day. Lots of smart traders in there and a members area, but really just kind of access to me. However, many people right now, some people have been reaching out for one-on-one help. Not here to sell anything, but if you want help optimizing a portfolio for the bull run and having my help either with coaching or a Google Doc where we'll look at what you have, list the coins I would recommend on a percentage basis, and it auto calculates your budget for each with formulas, and then of course kind of helping the risk manage that. So, it's not for everybody, and but for those of you that have interest, you can learn more here at moonstream.io. And it's kind of a buffet style. Click around and see what you like. But
Cool.
anyway,
Thank you. So Darren had a couple questions here. You mentioned DeFi and getting 50% yield on or something by doing some kind of lending. How complex or simple is that to do?
right. So we just launched something with a partner, Next Level DeFi, and he's doing DeFi, but also liquidity mining, which is higher ROI. And so nextleveldefi.com, this is Vadim, Belarusian Russian smart guy, created this system and using a platform called Stella Swap, where basically it's listing all of the yields that are there, and it's a course and program on how to do it. I don't know how to do it. This isn't my jam. I'm gonna I'm gonna go through the course as soon as I can, but we had a lot of interest in this. So from what I know, you can go to places called like DeFi Llama and see what people are paying in yields. But the problem is, in a bear market, these yields go down to nothing. With the liquidity farming or liquidity mining that Vadim is teaching, um, he was making 20% a monthly yields in the bear market, according to him. So the traditional way is like, Lido and Aave, and so you can look through the total value locked and the change. And so as far as what they are paying, uh, it's um, it's beyond the scope of this to show how to do it. But if it's of interest to you, I would check out nextleveldefi.com, and it's his course on Stella Swap, which is another DeFi swap platform. But his stuff is next level and it's simple, and so that's why we're partnering with him. And might be something to introduce to the rest of your list, Brian. For the
Yeah.
bear market when it's hard to make money, on the market because it's going down. Our plan is to get out near the top and then put it all into DeFi and earn yield on it, so that it compounds.
Gotcha.
But
One last question here. Darren said, have you done anything with Bitcoin crypto futures like MBT, Bitcoin, or Mini, or some even options on crypto EFTs? If you,
not yet. I know Coinbase has futures on Bitcoin, and I have two accounts, and I have it tied to the old account I don't use anymore. One of my clients is using it. I think my thoughts up until just the last few days where we don't need leverage. But because things are a lot really volatile now, we might need to capitalize on these short-term swings. I was using perpetual futures on platforms like Bybit and BitGet, and now we don't have access to those. And I've been reluctant to get back into that leverage trading with it because the spreads, you really need to know what you're doing. If they start getting away from you, you wind up chasing it, and if you're using leverage, it's dangerous. We're going to be doing some more on that with the Bitcoin futures based on Coinbase because it's within everyone's reach. I don't
Mhm.
want to get into having to go get a Palau ID and go to some other,
Mhm.
although there is a new DEX platform that offers leverage that my one of my members is talking about, Hyperliquid, which sounds interesting. So that might be one to check out if that is of interest. Hyperliquid XYZ. I'll be playing around with it here. Essentially, it doesn't require KYC because it's decentralized, and the rules apply to companies that have like a founder that where it's ostensibly doesn't need that. But I can't recommend it personally yet. I just know because I haven't used it yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate sharing that information. This is a lot of information to digest, but yeah, guys, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, there is opportunity here. I do believe you can, go to the links and the sites that Brett recommended, and his obviously moonstreamio.io is a great one to start with. That's one that I'm starting to follow a bit more, starting to check out because I definitely want to see kind of what's going on. And I used to be in cryptocurrencies. I've been out of it for a while, but I've been interested in getting back in some way, shape, or form. So, and obviously Brett would be the person that I would be following with to do that. And so, yeah, there's a link to their, moonstream.io/work dash with dash me for Brett. But we'll be sending out some other emails here over the next probably weeks or months, introducing you to some more of the things that Brett does on a more direct basis. So you guys get exposed to that. But yeah, definitely if you guys are interested, check it out, get into it. There's a lot of information out there, but for me, if I'm going to get into something like this, I'm gonna find someone that I want to follow, someone that I believe has the best knowledge and has been doing it for a long time. That's been how I've been able to do certain things, but um, that's definitely what I would recommend, here. So, but that's why I invited Brett here to talk because I've seen his stuff and it's good. So, but yeah. So once again, appreciate that. Thanks so much. If anybody has any questions for me, obviously you can reach me at, Brian at, livinglegacyassociation.com. Reach out to me if you have any questions on this kind of stuff. But this was recorded, so we'll get the replay out to everybody as well. So, Brett, any last minute comments? Any thoughts?
It's just always good to see you, man, and I hope you have a
Yeah.
great holiday. And one of these
Yeah.
days, our paths will have to cross again, hopefully. And I'm always happy to jump on. The link I dropped, if anyone has any questions or wants to get involved and isn't sure, watch that video and you can schedule a call with me. It's not really a salesy call. I could just kind of help point you in the right direction. And anyone, friend of Brian's, friend of mine. So there you have it. But I think we will head up higher again in the near future, but I don't think it's going to be up only all year like most people think. I think they're going to have some trouble along the way, and then possibly though a bigger blow off top later in 2024. And so if we can nail
2025?
both of those, that would be awesome.
In 2025, you mean?
Yeah, 2025. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, sounds good, Brett. Thanks everybody for being here. Love all the questions. And yeah. So well, yeah, Joe. So how to start? How to start? So you had a question there. So yeah, definitely go to those links that we just showed you at moonstream.io and get signed up for that newsletter. That would be ideas on ways to start, understand how to get into it. But I mean, yeah, to start, I mean, you can just go open up a account with, Coinbase, crypto, those exchanges, and that's how you can get your foot in the door. But as far as like when to get in and when to get out, like that just takes knowledge or following somebody that is sharing that kind of knowledge. So I would recommend go to moonstream.io and yeah, getting started is pretty easy, by the way. It's just finding an exchange that you can, open up an account with.
Coinbase is,
Yeah,
um,
Coinbase is great. I use Coinbase for years. They're great.
I mean, that's a long story. I'm part of a class action lawsuit against them, but I still
Yeah.
recommend them. But yeah, go watch that Michael Saylor video, and at least you really have to have that conviction um, to be investing. I would say so. Watch that, and then reach out to us if you want any help, and we'll help you from
Yep.
there.
Yep. And oh, Joe, so he is from Canada, but yeah, it's does Coinbase does Canada, don't they? They do everything.
Sorry.
Like he's in Canada. Does that make a difference?
Canada, I don't know. I think they've got different exchanges up there, but
Yeah. I mean, when I first did it, I just Googled this and, popular safe exchanges in whatever country, and they came up with a bunch. Um, but I thought Coinbase, I couldn't remember if it was Coinbase or another one that I used.
yeah, it is.
Also,
Coinbase has been available in Canada since 2015.
yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
So
Yeah, because when I was teaching, because I was doing crypto and stuff, and I remember I think I thought it was Coinbase we recommended for Canadians.
I like Gemini also, but they have shut down in Canada for some reason.
Yeah, I have never used them before, but
Let's blame it on Trudeau.
there you go. All right. Sounds good, everybody. So with that, obviously any questions, reach out to me, reach out to Brett. But yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for being here. And everybody else, we don't talk before the holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that kind of stuff.
All right.
All right.
Cheers. Anytime, man. See
Everybody.
ya.